Hi, my name is Myra Tanksley, and I am recording this on February the 14th, 2015. And I am the proud single mom of a son with autism that's going to be 22 in a couple of months. Unfortunately, my son is in a system that has abused and neglected and assaulted him and is using him for federal funds. Right now, he is improperly, illegally committed to a state of Ohio developmental center called Columbus Developmental Center here in Columbus, Ohio. It's an ICF MR facility. It's ran by the state of Ohio, the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. I say improperly and illegally committed because you have to be moderately retarded to be committed, to be involuntarily committed to that facility. And my son is autistic, but he is not moderately retarded. Even their ex-psychologist said that. And that's written down on the justice page. And I do have a justice for autistic Marquise Tanksley on Facebook. And then I have another page called the abuse and neglect of autistic Marquise Tanksley by the government. Both of those are on Facebook. Besides seeing my son suffer and his rights trampled over, I have had my rights trampled over. When they illegally committed Marquise to this facility, he was living at his own, or in his own apartment with 24/7 round-the-clock DD staff. There was a developmental disability agency that was coming in to help him. The only reason why he was in that apartment is because, you know, I had lost my home due to foreclosure. So I went ahead and asked Franklin County Board of DD to help me find a suitable place for my son, because all that time he had been with me. But when he went into the apartment, he was only there for 3 months. We didn't have anybody that knew anything about autism. And when he ran down the street, because he was being triggered and stuff, and the staff didn't know how to work with him because they didn't know about the disability of autism, he was arrested and thrown in jail overnight. And then when he came back home, he had staff with him. I just went out to get some food for him, and next thing I know, the staff said that he had ran down the street and somebody had got threatened by him, or they thought his behavior was threatening. They called the police and they threw him in jail, and the jail wouldn't take him. So this time around, he ended up at OSU. And Franklin County didn't really want him in the community, because during all that time, I would say from the second week of Marquise being there, he was only there for 3 months, I was trying to get him out of the neighborhood, out of the apartment. It was too small, too noisy. The neighbors were very hostile, thought he was some kind of madman. Didn't, know that he was autistic, and probably couldn't even really understand it anyway. A lot of people don't know about autism, and that includes the so-called professionals in these agencies, or government agencies. Lots of people, and I can prove it on each and every one of them. If I start naming agencies and people, I can back it up with evidence, because I'm an evidence girl. So he and then I had got on Channel 6, because when he was arrested, one of the local news stations went ahead and did a story on him, and the municipal court judge said, well, it's not his fault, it's the staff. The staff ought to know how to work with him. So Franklin County went ahead and sent a request over to probate court to have him involuntarily committed. They mislabeled him as being moderately retarded, went ahead and slandered me. And that's all this thing has been, the abuse, neglect of my son, and the slander of me as his mother. Because it's like, how dare you, for you to speak out against the government, or speak up for your son. And I think there's racial components to this too. Everybody's going to deny it. We know how this country is, and their take on history, especially when it comes to racial issues. But I think that has something to do with it too. I don't care if people deny it or not, because there's outcomes that are different because of that. And like I said, I'm a evidence outcome girl. So, you know, people don't have to agree or see it for what it is. And of course, when it comes to that, everybody's in denial. So they went ahead after I got on TV and said that, you know, I wanted him to be in a better place in the community. Well, Franklin County Board DD sent this malicious request that was full of lies, because they mislabeled him as being moderately retarded, and they went ahead and said that I wouldn't consent to a comprehensive evaluation. And I'm a registered nurse, so I don't have no problems with evaluations and assessments and stuff. My son's been getting assessments and evaluations ever since he came out of my belly. I even do assessments and stuff as a professional nurse. So, but it was just slander, and they did that to try to see if they can take my guardianship away. So slander mom and abuse and neglect the son with the disability. So to make a long story short, they went ahead and in concert, you know, got some other people on the bandwagon, and you'll see all of that on the Justice page. That's why I'm getting ready. I had to make this tape on attorney David Belinky, who is now deceased. Very evil, arrogant Jewish attorney that thought he was the cat's meow. And you'll hear his tape. It was a civil tape. I wasn't fussing at him. He wasn't really fussing at me. But the arrogance will blow your mind. You know, he says he runs over people in court because he got a big mouth. And, you know, I'm a Christian woman, and I was just appalled at the things I was hearing him say throughout our conversation. But they got him to file a motion to take my guardianship away. A loving, supportive mother that speaks out for her son. And I said, well, and then they said that I wasn't cooperative with healthcare professionals. I'm not cooperative with anybody that's going to abuse and neglect my son. That's the way I feel about it. Now, if you do your job and you're not abusing and neglecting my son, then I have no problem with you. But when you abuse and neglect my son, you know, I'm going to speak out. I said, that's not part of not being cooperative with healthcare professionals. I said, as his mother, I have a right to look out for my son. And that's advocating. That's not trying to be uncooperative. And unfortunately, that's all we've had. We didn't have people that didn't know or have a clue about autism. And, you know, I mean, they can learn, they can be trained, they can read about it on the internet. But when you come where you're going to abuse and neglect a disabled person, an intellectually disabled person, because you don't think that they can be a good witness or tell on you, or you don't think they have any worth, or you misinterpreted their behaviors as being personal, or you think they're misbehaving because they're having behaviors because you're setting them off, your environment is setting them off, you're triggering. There's a big problem with that. You know, I just don't have no sympathy for people like that. I think they're scum, because I think you need to be working in another job. You don't have no right to do this to disabled people, and especially my son. So I'm the kind that speak up, speak out. I'm a Christian. I am not intimidated by sick, evil people. Not at all. And I love my son just as much as they love their children. But this audio video is about David Belinky. Like I said, the conversation was civil, but it was just this man bragged about being one of the writers of the so-called mental health laws in Ohio, which meant nothing to me, because autism is not really a psychiatric mental health disorder. It might be a brain disorder of the nervous system, but it's basically a neurological disorder. It's not a psychiatric disorder at all. So that meant nothing to me. And then he bragged about how many hours he had in probate court. They just love him because, you know, it's like, oh, I'm the cream of the crop attorney here, and I got so many hours. And I said, listen to this man's arrogance and pride. And I know, God doesn't like pride like that. Then he showed his incompetence by saying, and he might be autistic, talking about my son. And I'm going like, might be autistic, My son's been diagnosed as having autism ever since he's been 3 years old. And then it was a conflict of interest because he was very good friends with the psychiatrist over there in the state facility that they illegally committed my son to. Well, I'm good friends with him, and the psychiatrist is another corrupt, don't give a darn about the residents, just making money. His name is William Bates. And he was indifferent, not Dr. Bates. I can't really even call him a doctor, but Belinky was very indifferent to the assault and abuse of my son on December 1st, 2012. When I mentioned it, it was like, oh, that's a different matter. He didn't want to hear nothing about it. Now, you sitting up here talking to me on the phone about you took my guardianship away, and that you'll run over people in court, or run over me, or hospitals and stuff, it's just to look out for the well-being of my son. And then I tell you that I got on audio tape and I witnessed him being attacked, punched in the chest, and you tell me that's a different matter. He lied and said that he wanted to meet, that he would make a meeting between him, me, and this psychiatrist that's a good friend of his. Because I asked, can we get together and discuss medications? That never happened. He also lied, said he wanted me to come in his office and meet him the next week. That never happened. He said that it was a mistake because he said he removed me as a guardian because I wouldn't sign the necessary papers. But then he said it was a mistake because he said he didn't know that I already signed it. So, these corrupt attorneys can abuse their power. They go right into court, file their malicious, very deceptive motions and stuff. And a matter of fact, I had already signed a consent that was still in effect, because they stay in effect for a whole year. But he admits that, well, it was a mistake, because when he went into court to ask for my removal as guardian, and then also for authority to sign consents for Marquise, he said he didn't know I had already signed it. Probably didn't care. He just wanted to put in everything he could to get my guardianship taken away from me. He also coerced 2 of the workers to sign, to actually write a letter to probate court and sign it. Heidi Hughes and D. Michael Snow, and he's no longer superintendent over there, but Heidi's still over there. She's a social worker. I got the letter that they wrote and witnessed. Both of their signatures are on there. D. Mike Snow and Heidi Hughes to probate court saying I didn't sign the papers. You'll hear their tapes too when I do their section on the justice page, because I asked both of them at separate times why did they say that. Snow, I asked him face to face. You'll hear him on tape. Oh, we said you signed all the necessary papers. I started to say, well, idiot, why did you send a letter? Now, this is the evil, corrupt government scum that I'm talking about. There's nothing ethical or honorable about that. Heidi Hughes, I left a message on the phone and said, well, Belinky said that y'all send a letter, or I seen y'all send a letter. I didn't say Belinky. I said I seen y'all send a letter over to probate court, and she denied it. I don't know what you're talking about. So I said, well, you want me to send you the letter? I can send you the letter, because I actually got the letter that they sent to probate court, which is a corrupt court too, from the judge, the magistrates on down. So you'll hear Belinky talking about a mother can't do the right thing as a guardian. Well, they like these scummy, unfit, evil, incompetent attorneys that's appointed by the system. Probate court is in the system to keep these wards money. They really don't care, because my son ain't had no kind of care. He's done have residential abuse and neglect. But these attorneys don't have emotional attachments to the wards like a mother or a father would, a loving mother and father would. But they appoint attorneys that work for them. They know they ain't gonna fuss and try to help out the wards, especially if the court places them there. They know these attorneys that they appoint and pay is not going to really stand up and say, hey, look, you know, this so-called individual is being mistreated. They're not going to create no waves. They're going to go right along to get along. And they know that. So, and I will be doing a section on attorney Erin Sanford. She's right after this one on this Belinky. And I will show you how unfit, corrupt, and what a lying piece of scummy attorney she is. And I do mean unfit. I got that on tape. But back to Belinky. That's what you'll hear on this tape. You will hear the lies. You'll hear the arrogance. You'll hear how evil this man is. And he unexpectedly left here within a year of this phone call, and the Lord made sure I found out about it, because he made me get a paper that day and read it all the way through. And whose name did I see in the obituaries? I seen his name. Now, as a Christian, I know God will take Christian people home suddenly too, but they're with Jesus. But I know he'll put out the light of wicked people too. And the more I listened to this man, I said, this man he's not just offending people, he's offending God, you know, because he act like he was going to be doing this stuff forever. He thought he was untouchable, unstoppable. He was the greatest, and God put that light out. Just too much evil. And then when he started talking about, and this lady's a preacher, when he said that the court always appoints him. I forgot, I think he said he had 10,000 hours or something, 1,000 hours or something. And then when he got to the part where he's a co-guardian with this mother, but they always usually side with me. They listen to both sides, but they always side with me. And this lady's a preacher, and the whole, it's just something grown inside me, you know, like, oh, you know. And I said, the Lord gonna punish you for that, because you up there bragging about it's bad enough if you abuse people and loving people, you know, people that ain't done nothing. They're looking out for their sons and daughters and advocating and standing up and doing the things that a parent should do, especially when you got a disabled child, you know. And you're talking about how you run over them and abuse them and then bragging about it. I said, that's a offense to God. And then he said, you know, another phenomenon. And I'm going like, huh? Ain't nobody a phenomenon except for Jesus. And that's probably not really the right word to describe Jesus, you know, who to me is God in the flesh. But I listened to this man. I never heard such arrogance in my life. But you will hear those things on the tape, and it was just pure evil. I said, it's bad enough to run over people and abuse your power, but to brag about it and think you unstoppable and you untouchable and nobody can do anything about it and stuff, and nobody in the system, according to him, he was a cat's meow. Probate court loved him, and he had all, I guess, this reputation of being a whatever, the brainchild of mental health in Ohio, or he helped write the laws. So God put him down. He just went ahead, and I know he did it because he made sure and showed it to me and made sure that I found out about it by getting a paper. And I'd never get a paper, but the Lord spun me around in the store that day and made me go back to that table in Walmart and get that Columbus Dispatch. So without further ado, here is the audio tape of me talking to this man back in December 7, 2012, and like I said, within a year he unexpectedly died at home, because I felt the Lord was going to punish him, but I didn't know how. I don't have God's mind and timing and methods, but I knew that he was really offending God the more he talked. So here we go, and thank you for listening.
Okay, well, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to agree with you right now, but we have some things going on, and I saw him today, and I don't like seeing...
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Belinky. I want to see somebody else that's really, interested in Marquise's well-being, and I haven't seen that.
I am interested in his well-being, but as part of that interest in his well-being, I don't sometimes mind running over people either. So if I think someone's getting in the way, it could be you, the mom, it could be the hospital, it could be whoever it is, I'm going to run them over.
Well, I'm the same way. I've been doing...
I got blinder vision when it comes to that. That's why the court appointed me.
Right.
And I did ask for your removal, and I know that is probably a little bit of a call, but I have to do that just to at least set it for an issue. If we don't have to go that route, we won't go that route.
Well, I think it was just... Well, you don't know me and Marquise from Adam.
You guys at all.
And you were...
That's what I wanted to say to you, though. And then I'd like you to come in and visit me next week, or we could talk after the hearing on the 14th.
Okay.
The hearing is Friday. Marquise is a sweet kid, I think, at heart.
He really is.
But
that's true.
He's got some behavioral issues that I believe will interfere with his ability to be rehabilitated. Okay? I am not an expert in mental retardation law. I am considered one of the foremost experts in the state in mental health law. I helped write the statute in 1980 with the Ohio Legislative Commission when I worked for Bill Brown, the Attorney General. I've done over 10,000 civil commitment hearings. I'm involved deeply in the area. My wife was chief legal counsel for the Ohio Department of Mental Health and MR before it split in after. So I have lived mental health, mental retardation law. I do specialize more in mental health law, but I want to tell you something. I really want to help your son. And I do want to also indirectly help you.
Well...
Okay? I want you to know that. But it's okay sometimes to disagree with people.
Right. Well, I haven't seen CDC. It's the wrong place. I just witnessed a worker punch my son in the chest. It's on audio tape, Mr. Belinky, Saturday. Nobody can... I haven't seen anybody looking out for his best interest. The Respidol, I have no problem. I'm a registered nurse. I have no problem with evaluation assessment. He's been getting those all his life. So the slander is just so corrupt. And then the thing about Respidol, well, you don't know this, but Dr. Bates knows this from the last time he was there. Why would you want to try to put him on Respidol on a man that he was hospitalized on in the past? It's not the medication issue. It's the right medication. You can't put him on a medication that's not going to be effective for him. So what...
Well, hold on now. Let's go back then. So what do you think, ma'am, is the medication that would help his outburst?
I wanted Dr. Bates to talk to me. He will not talk to me. And I'm the one that has the history. He doesn't know. He hasn't lived with my son. My son's been on a lot of medication. I'm the one that knows the responses to that. The trazodone, I think, is pretty decent stuff. But did you know that the day that he was hit in the chest by that staff worker, that the nurses had gave him extra doses of trazodone on Saturday and Sunday at 4 p.m.? It's a big deal. It messes up the medication levels and stuff.
Well, I was under the impression, correct me if I'm wrong,
Okay.
that in a mental retardation developmental center, they're allowed to use drugs as a treatment if it's for outbursts or things like that.
Well, it was
isolate them. Is that not true or no?
No. He's actually on scheduled medication and stuff. And
That's something you'd agreed to in the past.
right. But it was a med error, Mr. Belinky. It was a med error. And when those things occur, it can knock off the med levels and stuff. But I'm glad that you're on board with me. I can't see anybody.
Look, I'm not on board with you.
Okay. Well, I'm glad.
I want to do it in his best
Okay, well.
And if that is being on board with you, fine. If it's not, that's fine too.
Because I'm the one that loves my son more than anybody else and stuff. And I'm a fighter for my son. I'm a mama bear. And me and you are alike, actually. I hope we don't have to bump heads and stuff. Because I'm all about Marquise. I love him and everything. But why isn't this psychiatrist sitting down saying, okay, Mom, you know him better than anybody else. You live with him. You know the history of meds and stuff. I had to beg Dr. Navarre to even call me back so I can give him a surgical history since the last time Marquise was there in January. Why isn't he wanting to sit down and talk to the person that knows the most about it?
Okay, well, I might be able to set that up then.
Yeah, let's all sit down and talk about meds. Let's do it. I have no problem with him being on medication.
I'm going to tell you another phenomenon, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. It's when, now, you are his mother.
Yes, sir.
There's no one denying that. And sometimes being a mother interferes with being a guardian. It's a hard concept to grasp because sometimes you have to make a decision as a guardian that you would never make as a mom. So I think I want you to think a little bit to yourself and think, maybe I'll agree to have someone be a co-guardian with me to help me discuss, to help me put together plans, to help me talk with people so I can see that my son gets the best treatment possible and he becomes a person who's better functioning, because he's got some developmental issues, there's no question about that, you know that, and he's looking to win a Rhodes Scholarship, but he could have a better life than he's having now. I don't like the life he's having now, I'm sure he doesn't. So that's what I'm saying, so I do want you to think about some other possible options so we can present it to the court at the end of December, so the court, what I don't want to happen is I don't want you to be necessarily removed if you still want to do it, and if you want to have some, because I'm guardian with another woman on her son, that she wouldn't make medical decisions in her son's best interest. She didn't have a background like you did. You have some nursing background. This woman was a preacher, and she didn't believe in medication or...
No, well, I believe in medication.
No,
it's the right.
Each case is different, so the court ended up appointing me co-guardian, so when we had a disagreement, if she didn't agree to something, and I did, then, the court would usually go with my suggestion, although they listened to both sides.
You know, the kind of legal ego I need, well, I don't think I need a co-guardian. I'm a registered nurse, been doing this for 19 years, love doing it. I need somebody that...
Let me interrupt you, and you can tell me what you need. I'm not saying it's necessary. I threw it out as an option because what I wouldn't like to see happen is for the court to say, ma'am, you're out altogether. Okay?
I don't see how, but see, my thing is, I haven't done anything. I mean, if you're going to revoke a guardianship...
The way I get this all the time. And the thing is, you probably believe that you haven't done anything. You perceive yourself differently than people perceive you.
Well, that's slander. It's slander, and I'm a mother bear.
I'm forgetting what it's called or whatever, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you might say, I'm doing everything that's proper. Someone who might see you doing what you think is proper is saying, observes it differently. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
I'm not taking a side on that. I'm just saying.
Well, by the time, but Mr. Belinky and stuff, I mean, I'm a mama bear. I pick up the phone and I go after, I advocate for my son, and people that are wrong or corrupt don't like that. And I don't, because I have all the say what this person calls it. I'm not afraid to go against anybody for my son's interest. But see, they told you about the comprehensive evaluation. They told you a lie. They told you a lie when they said that I refused the comprehensive evaluation. When Mark Snow said that.
As it turned out, now here's a different way to say it. Okay? This is important for you. They were mistaken. Not they lied. They were mistaken because when I went to visit them the first day, nothing was signed. Now, between the time I filed it, you came over and signed everything. So, when they first told me that you hadn't done that, and I knew that normal comprehensive would take a couple weeks, we're going to run out of time. So I filed a motion giving me permission to sign whatever they needed so it would get done. Now, as it turned out, I would say, in court, I'm telling you now, I didn't have to sign Why? Because you signed all the papers.
What then?
It was accurate when I filed it, but your conduct, you eliminated it. That's not an issue anymore. So instead of calling them a liar, okay, and getting them all pissed off about it, it might be better to say, at that time I wanted to think about it a little bit, or I hadn't had plans to get over there, but I never intended not to sign it. Of course I wanted it done. It helps me. It's a document that will help me get services for my son. So you don't call someone a liar if you're trying to get honey out of them.
Okay, well,
You have to be a little bit more careful with the word you use, because these people are very, very defensive now, and their job is to help your son.
But they're not. They're not, Mr. Belinky. They're not.
That's a different issue. I'm just saying their job description is to help rehabilitate whatever your son.
He can't even have his own clothes.
Whether they are or not, it's a totally different issue.
Well, can you do something? You're a lawyer. You got the skills. I'm a registered nurse. I don't have the skills.
That's right.
No. You got skills. Where can you move him someplace else where he won't be treated? He ain't got no clothes. This guy punched him in the chest. I witnessed it.
That is a possibility, and I raised that with them. They have what's called catchment areas, I think, in mental retardation, where they try to move someone in a place that they're close to the family. If they move someone, that would affect your visitation, unless you don't mind driving Cincinnati to visit them. Or whatever the nearest place is. Yeah, that could be worked out.
Now, is that another facility, another developmental center, or?
I don't think there is in Columbus. So, I think as many options should be presented. I think there might be one in Dayton, but that's over an hour drive.
Now, I prefer for him not to really be in a facility. I think Marquise could still be in the community. He has a pretty decent agency, like I told Channel 6 and stuff. Look, it wasn't all on the agency. He was in a place where he couldn't be secure because he has a history of elopement and stuff. I want him in the community. I think he could do it and stuff. But of course, he's been, traumatized with the seclusion closet and everything else and stuff. And I kind of am the same way with...
I asked about that. I have a 4-inch thick file on your son, and I'm going to review that very carefully over the weekend. That's one of 2 things I'm doing this weekend.
Well,
I'll know a whole lot more on Monday, so...
But I advocate for my son. Well, I'm like you, sir, because I advocate, I pick up the phone, and people don't like that. Because I've been through this with other people. Franklin County can't stand me.
Here's what I wanted you to do. Between now and the end and through Sunday, I know that they've cut off visitation, right?
Yeah, and that's awful because my son looks forward to seeing me.
Hold on. I want you to take the weekend off. Don't call them. Don't visit. Just enjoy your peace and quiet. Don't get all riled up. Get rested, because you got plenty of time to yell at them next Friday. And then I want you to call them, whoever you get along with the best. Maybe his psychologist, John, and say, John, can we talk a little bit?
I know
Even keel.
Stephen Pruitt is the psychologist over there. I don't know the John. Stephen Pruitt? Dr. Pruitt?
Well, whoever it is, whoever it is, though, and just talk to the man. Once you get all up in arms, they're going to shut you out.
Well, Mr. Belinky, I'm scared for my son. What did he look like today? Does he have bruises on him? Because I know they have...
I didn't do a physical exam. He was sitting in the corner on the chair. I introduced myself.
He had clean clothes on? They been putting I bought a new set or something?
It looked like he had a clean... He might have been still in his pajamas. He looked like he had pajama bottoms with a clean top on. And he looked fine. He was sitting in the corner there in his chair. I talked to him. I explained who I was. I think he understood. I told him I would be back next week. He said, and we could talk. He said, talk about what? And I said, Marcus, we can talk about whatever you want. We can talk about football, basketball. We can talk about anything you want to talk about. Is that okay? He said, yeah, that'll be all right. And then I said, in fact, I heard you like football. He said he did. And I brought you something.
Oh.
I brought him an insert from the Columbus Monthly this morning that had, for the Columbus newspaper, the Dispatch. It had the summary of the Buckeyes season. It had nice pictures, and the front was saying OHIO, and, you know, it had pictures, and it had a summary of every game. I said, okay, well, you know, this, you might enjoy reading this or looking at the pictures, whatever it is. So, you know, I sort of, and the guy who was in there with me, he said, well, you did talk to him beautifully. We haven't been able to talk to him like that. I said, well, you got to talk to him.
You got to engage him. You got to make him feel like you're a buddy.
You have to redirect him, and you have to give him some choices. So, and I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, but I've just, through experience, I've learned that there are ways to talk to people, and there are ways to talk to people from a right.
Mr. Belinky, they just don't accommodate him for his autism. Marquise is autistic. He's got mild to moderate MR, but he's autistic. And
He might be autistic, yeah.
yeah, yes, he's been diagnosed with autism since he's 3 years old. And maybe you can put a memo out. You know, you engage him, you're treating him like a human being.
I do know today they called their comprehensive evaluation.
Well, that's starting at 2, so I got to get over there.
Well, I'm going to, I have to go to court today to file something in another case. I'm hoping they didn't mail it out to me already because I want to read that over the weekend too.
No, it's supposed to be done at 2 p.m. today.
But I think it was filed already is what I'm saying.
And Dr. Tilly from Behavioral Sciences is going to be doing it because he did it before.
Okay.
And I'm going to be over there in a half an hour. I'm only 15 minutes away, of course. And it's, but I'm glad that we got to talk and stuff because we need to do this thing for Marquise. And
it's my responsibility is to do what's in Marquise's best interest. It's not necessarily do whatever Marquise says I should do. I mean, I'm a free thinker. If he says do this, if I don't think it's in his best interest, I won't do it. But so I'm instilling my values into this process, and you know, I hope we can still talk when it's all done. And I will tell you that I don't want to hurt you, and I certainly don't want to hurt him. But I would rather hurt you than him. How's that? Is that how it is? Is that a good way to describe my job?
well, you basically an attorney for him, not for me, and everything. But actually, we got the same goals. But you know, what will you do as far as the abuse and all the stuff that Marquise is suffering over there?
I'm going to go through their records. They gave me some records. I'm going to go through that. Of course, abuse of a resident is never tolerated.
Do you want to hear this audio tape, sir?
Not right now, because I got so much to do.
Okay, well, you can hear it.
I want to get up before midnight.
You're welcome to it. I can make a copy copy of it for you like I'm doing for other people. Because I'm not hallucinating. This is not make-believe. And that's why I'm scared to death for my son.
Well, they're not going to hurt him intentionally. Okay? They know I'm involved now. I told them my role, and they know I can stop by anytime. So I think they know me. I'm very good friends with Dr. Bates, by the way. So if you could have a civil conversation with him, and I asked him to have a conversation with him, he'll sit down and have a conversation with you.
Well, how about, like you said, next week? Let's all three sit down and talk about marriage.
Well, that might be a good idea. I don't know what my schedule's like yet, but I have your number. I'm glad we talked.
Me too.
And so we'll talk probably on next Tuesday or so. Monday's really kind of jammed up.
Yeah, well, I had to move his things out of his apartment because Franklin County Board of DD says he's not returning back to the apartment. They're going to turn off the utilities.
Okay, well, you take care of those details, and I'll call you back next Tuesday sometime, December 11th.
All right, then. Okay. Very much, Mr. Belinky.
All right, well, you have a weekend, a nice weekend, and just get yourself some rest and reflect a little bit, and maybe that'll help.
All right, then. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay, so there you have it. Just full of lies. He never contacted me the next week. Never set up a meeting so we can talk about medications with his good friend, Dr. William Bates, the psychiatrist at CDC. the comprehensive evaluation, he admit that it was done by not CDC, because CDC couldn't give my son a comprehensive evaluation. It was done by a forensic behavioral, I want to say agency company. So that was the only people that could do it anyway. Even though Franklin County said they wanted to put him over there, besides getting him out of the community, that he needed to have a comprehensive evaluation to be done by the state. But the state wasn't able to do it. They wasn't allowed to do it. It had to be done by this behavioral forensic kind of company. And you also heard him when he was saying another phenomenon, and then like I said, the conversation was civil, but towards the end I kind of realized this he was just a part of the system. His loyalty is to the court that appoints him. I was so disappointed when I asked him, would he like to hear the audio tape of my son being, because he, you know, in the beginning, oh, I got your son's best interest in mind, and oh, I'm the great guardian ad litem, and you know, I do civil commitments, but I really care about the best interest and stuff. And then, you know, I'm going like, well, why wouldn't you want to hear this? My son's safety is at stake. But all the things that he promised, he never did. He never said in open court, oh, I didn't have to fill out this or sign for his paperwork because his mom had already did it. He never said that during the guardianship hearing. It was just all lies. But he's no longer around. But that's the kind of scum you got in these courts, probate court and family court and whatever, you know, and just abusing their powers, lying, telling you one thing on the phone, doing another out in the public. It was just a disgrace. It really was. So, and he did ask for my removal as guardian. And it was basically, the papers that he filed were basically because I was uncooperative with healthcare professionals and stuff. And I'm going like, you know, that's just ludicrous. I'm a healthcare professional myself. No big deal about doing assessments and evaluations on my child. He had it through school, he had it in preschool, he had it with healthcare, no big deal. So that's how my guardianship was taken away. They had him file it. OSU, who hates me and Marquise, I'm talking about OSU Harding Hospital. The ER is not happy with us too. Like, oh God, here comes this family that he got behaviors and don't bring him here and all that and stuff. They're on the justice page too, so you can see how they felt about me and Marquise. Got them taped, got a picture where the security guard at the sister hospital, OSU East, hit my son in the eye and cut his eye because they were tying him down. This idiot was all up in his face and stuff. Nobody knows how to work with autism. I said, you don't do autistic people like that, you know. So look for this. I'm gonna put some comments in this particular audio video, and to try to explain more, because I'm running out of time and you can only tape these things for so long. But so there you have it, the arrogance, the lies, the slander, the corruption. And thank you for listening, and I hope you have a blessed day.